Hey guys, it's Brandon. Going to do a little kibitzing here today. I just noticed that GM Ohm is on, and that's Grandmaster Yasser Seirawan. He's playing some 3-minute games, it looks like. So yeah, let's just check out what he's doing. We've got a Caro-Kann here. It was an advanced Caro-Kann, I believe. Yeah, Bishop F5 version. The light square bishops have been traded off, and black is trying to put some pressure on the d4 point, pretty standard, has to be defended. And now, basically, black is looking to get out of this sort of a nice French defense structure, where he's got the pawn chain going from f7, e6, d5, fair strong, and now up to c4. But he doesn't have the bad bishop anymore. He exchanged it for white's bishop. So, for a lot of years, this advanced Caro-Kann was considered just sort of to give black a nice version of the French defense. But okay, Yasser decided to castle queenside here, and white's going for some aggressive pawn moves on the queenside to try to attack the king. And now offering the exchange of bishops. I think king a2 is probably king a7 is probably a good move at some point, just to stop any a7 stuff. Sort of really blocking up all the files. The b file could still be, okay, well, he's just going to sacrifice the pawn to open a line, but Yasser decides just to use this a7 pawn as a shield. Now attacking the b pawn, which is just sacrificed, and then b4 is played to sort of plug up the files on the queen side here. So now it's sort of hard to get any open lines into the into where Yasser's king is here on the queen side. In the meantime, Yasser has ideas like g6 at some point, maybe, or f6 after some preparation to try to get some ideas against the white king. Okay, so white's looking maybe to invade on a6 here. So Yasser just decides to take off the pawn, opening the a file and trying to initiate some exchanges. He's also up a pawn now at this point. And has got, let's see, a slight lead in time. Not huge, but a slight lead. He does also have pressure on d4. d4 is underprotected, but the knight at the moment is needed to guard the rook here. And now Yasser's in a pin, so he should probably try to get out of it. Yeah, he does, before the queen doubles on this pin here. And yeah, he's up a comfortable pawn. I don't think white has any particular initiative on the against the king anymore. Just with this open a file, doesn't seem like it's going to be enough. But now putting pressure on the f7 pawn, which is defended by the rook. So yeah, the f7 pawn, the g7 pawn, these are weaknesses. Can't really be moved forward because of the pawn taking. So now white going for some play on the king side with g4 and just giving up this b5 pawn, which now means that Yasser has two very dangerous looking pass pawns on the king side, which will be especially dangerous if he moves, threatening b4, and then these pawns probably will just roll down the board. So white decides he has to get something going, and oh, the knight coming in here, attacking the queen, and this fork coming in. So yeah, this looks like bad times for white here, but Yasser decides not to play b4. I wonder what was wrong with b4 in that position. Just decides to bring the knight into f5, a good square, putting pressure on d4. I guess he's not in a hurry to play b4. Figures he can play b4 pretty much whenever. I mean, I would have played maybe b4 there, but perhaps there's something I wasn't seeing. So now defending this pawn again, grabbing the g5 pawn. Still some pressure on f7. Yeah, okay, now b4 comes in. And, you know, b5, b3, b2 seems logical, but instead deciding just to play f6 to chase the knight away. Rook f7 now probably, or maybe rook to, does rook to h here? Yeah, this just traps the knight. So, okay, take the knight here and then take this knight, or take the d4 pawn. He also has a huge lead in time, so threatening this fork now. So the king had to move to protect the queen and king fork. I mean, everything is winning here, plus the huge time advantage. So he takes off that knight. Now he can take off this knight on h7, probably. Oh, the king, the check first came in. Now maybe take on h7, but then queen to here. What about queen here? King moves up to defend. The knight's still in a pin. Now he manages to get this knight out of the way. Okay, knight f7 attacking the rook. Rook just takes the pawn off. This is still a winning position for black, I would say. Just a massive amount of material up. 1, 2, 3, 4 pawns up. And maybe this pin is a little annoying, but white can get out of it, and these pawns are just going to queen. I mean, all exchanges here favor black. So, yeah, hopefully he'll play maybe one more game here. And or maybe a couple more. He's been playing for a little while, so hopefully he hasn't decided to go to sleep yet or anything. I think his flag is the Netherlands. I think he lives there. It's probably around midnight over there, 6 hours or so ahead. So hopefully we can get another game from Yasser. Oh, okay, yeah. So this time he's playing white, and he's playing International Master Caro-Kann. So we've got an English opening, and black playing this sort of Queen's Gambit decline setup with e6 and d5. If d4 now, we can sort of go into a Queen's Gambit decline Tartakower, but he takes first. Maybe d4 now? Yeah, so we've got a Queen's Gambit decline Tartakower kind of position, only usually this bishop here on c1 would be on g5 in those types of positions. But white has played e3 first, so preventing that. So some plans here, an early knight b5 excursion, maybe weakening some white squares. Will's putting pressure on the c7 pawn. But, okay, knight coming into e5. Not enough on it to take it yet. Queen c2 probably is going to come in. Oh, b4. So he's trying to slow down c5 and reduce black's counterplay. Black will be looking to play c5 in this position, both to get rid of this pawn weakness on c7 and strike at the white center. But maybe c5 isn't ruled out at the moment. He's got enough to actually just play it, but it would leave some pawn weaknesses behind. I think the a pawn and the d pawn would be isolated, and Yasser would gain access to the d4 square for a knight. So that's possibly why we don't see c5 being played at the moment. a4, stretching out on the queen side. Nice development for white here. Probably a slight edge for white, but I don't know. I wouldn't say it's anything serious yet for black. The c-pawn is actually nicely defended by this bishop here. Black does have a problem with this b7 bishop. Of course, it's staring at this pawn on d5 and not particularly an active piece, but it does lend support to the e4 square, which is very nicely got a knight on it now. So relatively balanced. Okay, queen coming out to f6. Now queen c2, more pressure on e4, and also putting pressure on the c7 pawn, so making it difficult for black to move the bishop off of this diagonal. Not that he wants to anyway. I don't think you'll see something like the bishop giving itself up for this knight. So now black playing rook e6. And now c5 is sort of ruled out, maybe not forever, but well, at the moment it's not possible. Oh, Yasser may be trying to play bishop to a3 now to try to get rid of this bishop. That seems like a good idea, a good positional idea. This bishop is not really doing much anymore on d2. It could just be taken by the knight. And this bishop is probably definitely one of black's better pieces. So Yasser wants to just play bishop a3, trade this bishop off, and it's hard for black to really do anything about that because the c-pawn is hanging. And he's got a massive advantage in time, actually. I just noticed that. This guy, this international master, is really not playing quickly enough here. So yeah, bishop a3, try to trade this bishop off. Not much White can do about it. But he did defend the c-pawn. And this does give also... Oh, wow. He just decided to give it up for the knight. I don't know about that decision. Is there something going on here? Maybe he wants to play for an h-file attack with rook to h6 and queen to h5. That could be a possibility here. So Yasser just have to look out for this now open h-file. Like 29 seconds. Okay, rook to h6 and then queen h5 and then mate on h1. could be dangerous for white. So he has to do something about that, or at least keep it in mind. The knight on e4 would prevent the king from escaping. Yeah, so he's going for it. Oh, queen h5? No, queen h5. What was the defense to queen h5? I guess just king f1, which was the point of the rook move. So now maybe preparing, yep, defending the f2 square. Oh, and now the knight. I guess that would have been a defense at any point, really. The knight coming in to block the h-file. But now g4 is probably a threat. g5, I mean, chasing the knight away. So maybe king f1. This IM is getting a lot of counterplay here. Wow. What's going on now on g5? Yeah, the knight can't really move because it's mate. So he just decides to take the piece back this way. Interesting. Yeah, I don't think white's position is so hot anymore. I guess he's going to be down a pawn here after after pawn takes knight here. Well, this rook was hanging. Did forget about that. And wow, I don't even know what's going on here, except that we've got roughly even material again. And okay, black resigns because he has 7 seconds left, and somehow Yasser came up with some good defense there to stave off this H-file attack. And oh, he's going again. He's got black, so let's flip the board here. And oh, we're getting a Slav from Yasser here versus Arthur D42, high-rated on the 3-minute auto pairing, 23:30, roughly the same. So probably a title player, but just doesn't have the title listed. So might be an anonymous account or something. So okay, what's going on in this game? The bishop gave itself up here, and right, bishop took f3, and he decided to retake with the g-pawn. That's unusual. Usually you'd see queen takes, and now immediately putting pressure on the g-file with the bishop against the point g7. So knight to e8 was required to defend the g-pawn there, and I guess we'll see king h8 probably at some point just to chase this bishop away, getting out of the pin on the g-file. But now white is stretching out on the queen side a little bit. a4 could be an idea. I mean, a5, a6 could be an idea. The knight's nice here on b4. It's a good square. It can't be chased anywhere. And maybe it doesn't have too many targets there, but yeah, now you see the point of taking with the g-pawn is that white has an excellent pawn center. It's very difficult to work around. Yasser's going to have to find some way to strike at it. Maybe with either c5 or f5 at some point. f5 maybe is an idea to try to force some exchanges and try to get control of the d5 square. So he can plunk his knight in there on d5. No, he's deciding to fork and just go for the dark square bishop, get the bishop pair back. Yeah, I guess this dark square bishop could be a dangerous piece, and maybe he won't have to worry so much about getting checkmated as long as he keeps his dark square bishop on the board, defending these dark squares around his king. And so it'll be much more difficult for black to mate without being with this bishop being unable to be exchanged off, for white to mate black, excuse me. And now also taking the pawn on a5. So Yasser's actually up a pawn here. There's like a diamond formation now here in the center. F5 square looks like a nice square. The D5 square could be a nice square. We'll see what happens. The white's keeping up on time here. Yasser, I've noticed he's not the fastest 3-minute player, but he usually gets, like, if it comes down to a time scramble and the position is roughly equal, he's not the fastest, but he usually gets good positions anyway, which is how I think he wins most of his games. But still up a pawn here in this position and control of the a-file, so black is doing pretty well. White's going to have to figure out something on the king side, I would think. I would think it would be difficult, but I think just standing pat and holding out on the queen side isn't a long-term strategy that's any good. Okay, rook coming to attack the queen. Can he take on b7? Probably. No, decides not to take on b7, just attacks the queen again. Queen moves, pinning the knight to this undefended rook on d2. Maybe there was a mate there. If he took on b7, there was a checkmate or checks, and that could have been annoying. Oh, white resigns. So the bishop is attacked, and if it goes to... yes, if the bishop goes to d, the knight would have been hanging. Okay, so let's do one more then. Yasser versus Julio Becerra. That's a grandmaster in the United States. He's pretty strong. He's got a very high 3-minute rating. So Yasser playing the Caro-Kann. We get an advanced Caro-Kann again. So the problem with the advanced Caro-Kann is that there's this awkward movement of the knight over to the g6 square as a result of not having enough space to get all the pieces out. If white refuses to exchange the bishops, then it can be tough for black to find enough spaces for his pieces to come out. I always had that problem in the Caro-Kann, so this is an interesting idea. I've also seen the idea of putting the bishop on, moving the bishop back to g6 and then the knight into f5. But then that knight could be later attacked with g4, but then knight to h4 is usually probably okay. So what's going on in this position? Yasser's got some space for his pieces. A little bit down on the clock, 20 seconds. And white seems to be doing okay. He's got this nice square here on e5, which would be a great square for a knight. Maybe even, not quite now. He doesn't have enough there now, but at some point in the future, could try to get a knight or something onto e5, which is a hole in the position that has come about due to black having played f6. So Yasser there with this pretty typical knight h4 maneuver to try to trade off some pieces. And okay, Yasser doesn't want to give the light square bishop away and put the queen on d3. It's hard to hold on to the light square bishops here. I think if bishop takes bishop, we'll see pawn takes, because that would eliminate this e6 weakness, which could be something that black could try to attack down the e-file. So now Yasser trying to force some exchanges, and oh, he doesn't even take with the pawn. He takes with the rook. So now this e6 point can be a weakness, and maybe we're seeing the doubling of rooks now on the e-file in order to try to attack this weakness. But Yasser now putting pressure on the f-file. So with this open f-file and the bishop pointing on f2, it's going to be hard for white to move away like any of these pieces, like the bishop, the rook, the queen. They all have to sort of stay in the general area to sort of defend f2, unless he wants to push f3 or f4 or something. But that seems to weaken the king. Oh, he does. So he just pushes f4. That's interesting. But what about something like bishop to g3 now? Yeah. Can he take that pawn? Takes bishop. I think he can take that pawn. Or is there something? Maybe there was takes, bishop takes, rook takes queen here, and then rook to g3 attacking the pawn on g6. Not sure. But now the knight may be finding a very nice square on e4. At some point, this knight is still covering e4, so maybe it's not going in there right away. Hard to say who's better in this position. White looks slightly less coordinated. This bishop here on e3 is sort of a bad piece, and actually now white is just sacking the exchange. What happens if queen takes here? Is there a tactic? Did Yasser miss a tactic? Oh, the queen can't take because the rook would be undefended, and queen takes rook. So Yasser actually just hanging a piece here, and in a lot of trouble now. Oh, but now this knight? So maybe... Oh, king coming in there. Yeah, maybe Yasser's finding a way to hang on here. Check. Maybe check with the queen, check back here with the... yeah, and maybe check here. Yeah. And taking a pawn. So actually Yasser is up a pawn now. But it still looks a little bit dangerous. The bishop can now come in here. Yeah, the bishop coming in on these dark squares. Like a check here on d6 could be annoying at some point. Yasser has to be careful, up a pawn, but really has to be careful with his king here. Roughly equal on time. And okay, so now putting a clamp on the white pawns on the queen side. Probably he could get a perpetual check now at any point, really, if he wanted it. The king looks very, very open. So now he goes in with the queen for checking. He's giving some checks. This is probably a perpetual if he wants it. I don't know if he thinks he can win this or what. But he's giving some checks, trying to think about it. So yeah, maybe he is going for the perpetual here. Yeah. So I guess both sides are happy with the draw in there. So, all right, a couple interesting games. Hope you guys... Oh, all right, I'll do one more. So we've got Yasser playing GM Alan Beard. Oh, no, it's not a GM. He's just playing somebody named Alan Beard. Rated 2175, so a little bit of a mismatch here. And we've got some kind of Catalan here. But white didn't play d5, so black got in an early d5. And instead of retaking, he just plays this sort of pawn sacrifice. I've seen this before, but I'm not exactly sure how it goes. White is down a pawn here, having sacrificed on d5, and I'm not quite sure what he thinks his compensation is. He could try to grab this dark square bishop. This bishop on b7 isn't a great piece. But yeah, now the e5 pawn under attack, and his development is lacking slightly. His king side is okay, but he's got to get his queen side pieces out. His black's slightly better in development here. And yeah, I'm not sure there's a whole lot of real compensation for this pawn, to be honest. But we'll see. I guess maybe something went wrong along the way for Yasser there. He'd like to play e6 at some point, probably, but that's ruled out at the moment. The knight is very good on f5, that's true. Now threatening checkmate on this square. And g6 may be the only move to defend. The knight doesn't have to move, there's a pin. So is there some bishop h6 or knight h6 check ideas in the position here? Might even be worth it just to grab this dark square bishop and then try to play against the weakness of the dark squares on the king side, which have been created by this g6 move. So Yasser thinking here, and he decides to play bishop h6 first, and maybe he'll snap the bishop off now, or else probably bishop f8 will be played. So if he's going to take that dark square bishop, it should be now, or else black will almost certainly play bishop f8 to challenge this bishop here on h6. So Yasser deciding if he wants to give up the good knight, and he decides against it. So I think we should expect to see bishop f8, if not now, then certainly very soon. But then maybe bishop takes f8, king takes or rook takes, and the knight does find a nice square on d6. Oh wow, knight to f8. Did not expect that one. And now the rook is trapped. That's nice. Just a missed tactic there, attacking the queen, but the queen just moves away, and yeah, the rook on e8 is actually trapped. Has nowhere to go. So Yasser's going to be just winning an exchange here, or he can take this bishop and destroy the king side, and then that could be dangerous with checkmates on. The rook is still trapped, so he doesn't feel the need to take it right away. Now he probably has to, because he decides to take the bishop. Wow. Didn't even want the exchange, just wanted to grab the bishop and weaken the king side. The pawn is just covering the g4 square here, which is lucky for black because that would have been mating otherwise. Or maybe not. He would have had knight blocks, but then h4. So somehow Yasser probably wants to get his queen onto the g file, but he's not employing that plan. He's just... Yeah, black's putting up some defense here. I mean, Yasser's up a pawn, but yeah, these dark squares are really, really weak. And maybe now he can play bishop to g6, or try to chase this knight off the file. That's another idea. Try to remove this knight. Ooh. Now offering a queen trade, attacking the knight, getting a thorn pawn in the black position here. When the knight moves, then I guess he can play rook takes rook, and rook takes pawn. and just be up another pawn. But first the bishop is attacked, so something has to be done about that bishop. Maybe, well, bishop to g5, then probably h6. So the bishop just comes all the way back, but first he takes with the check. So Yasser up one pawn here, and he's got this strong pawn. This is a thorn pawn. It's white. Black has to watch out for his back rank, because any back rank check is a mate, because this is covering the square here. And okay, so attacking the knight, trying to protect the pawn, and now nice technique. Now he will take a rook and win the exchange, and black resigns there. So, all right, that'll be the last video. The last game. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and we will see you next time.